What up, everybody? It's Ponter here, and today we've got a special game. It's an old game, a competitive match mode played, I don't know, like 2008. This is from the stack of replays that Kat shared, and it's a match between BiO and NFAC. And these are these are top tier teams. These are probably like BiO. I've recall being destroyed by BiO many times, or their Smurf accounts. They've got guys like AMP, who's probably one of the best armor players to play the game ever. And then these guys, NFAC, I don't know a lot about NFAC other than that they were good enough to get sponsored, which is always a telling thing. And I don't know the context of this game, other than it was a best 2 out of 3 on Riviera. And we're just going to speed up through the start. The Riviera is one of those maps. Look at this politeness. Everyone's, they got to be polite and whatnot. But I'm just going to pause it. We're going to look at the start here. Riviera is a tough map to play. And there's a lot of different options for strategies. And especially at high level 5v5s, the main strategy is the town push by USSR. And then the USSR kind of gives up on the windmill and lets NATO take it, which is what we're going to see here. And the USSR, spoiler alert, will opt for a town push. And both sides, I believe, are going to go double inf. Like, we're seeing a double inf play right here. And this is a cheeky... Look at this loadout by Great Zen. He's got 3 snipers, one of them in this chopper, and he's going to go for it. And we'll just watch this unfold. And really, what this match is going to show, so this is game 1. It's going to show you how to do a proper town push, because I think that's an art that not a lot, even myself, I was never the greatest at doing the town push. I kind of just always let the infantry players just duke it out in town and then focus on the windmill. But right away, look at this commitment by and the immediate scan. And going in, killing the support, but he just doesn't have enough muscles left to kill those tanks. And just look at this huge push of inf into the forest. Like, this forest is brutal when Inf gets in there. And in the meantime, AMP is just setting up over here, getting tank busted. That's good. Good stuff. And one thing I will note, and maybe this is, these players can't really defend their decisions at this point, but I believe the metas that when this game were played were not as set as they are now. So line of sight, is important, and these players obviously understood line of sight. I think players now understand it a little bit better. So we'll see that reflected in the kind of what happens on the hill. But immediately, what USSR always wants to do is just get into town and contest these 2 points while holding, this point is usually very easy to hold for USSR, and just give up windmill. And what you really, instead, what you want to do is defend and have a strong position in this space. And then, drops going on up here. Obviously you don't want to lose that. But if you can defend here and then pressure here and fuck up town, you're going to win the game. And see, again, look at the lack of line of sight here. Really, is really going to harm the push into this area. And some more tank busters coming down. But we'll see. The town push is a slow burn. It takes a while. You're going to grind it out a little bit. But what you really, from the USSR perspective, is damage the control for NATO of around here. Because then you defend the mansion, or whatever the fuck this is. You defend this by attacking this, and then it forces a huge kind of separation of forces and infant here critical for the caps. And, you know, we've got some desperate defense by AMP. But as I was saying, like thinking there's only one support player for NATO, and he has to defend this area and this area simultaneously, and air can bounce between. You know, that's a much more difficult position to defend than USSR if they keep kind of compact. And just some other things like, man, this sniper is a monster sniper. Obviously, if you're an inf player, you want this sniper position. And, man, yeah, drops in the back. Brutal. This is another amazing sniper position. Like, look at the range on this. Like, it covers your spawn, and it shoots into this area. You know, that's a beautiful sniper spot. You know, this sniper spot is awesome, and up here is an awesome sniper spot. We just noticed you know, it's forcing the infantry in this town has been so disruptive that they're already forced to gas and spend TA, and that's like 12 TA that's not going into drops, which is significant. Meanwhile, these drops are just spawn raping, which, you know, you always want to get some drops in here. All over, all across here is prime drop territory. Especially, you can sometimes get it behind the camera of the players, and so they don't notice. And yeah, and just note, like, this position is very strong. Like, there's 4 heavy tanks up here, but they can't really do much. Like, they're not really having a lot of game impacts. Like, they're just chipping away at forts. Compared to these heavy tanks, you know, they're capping this town. Like, that's brutal. And, like, look at this tick that, what do they call it? NFAC is getting right now. And you know, just getting strong, pumping more drops in here. Just getting, the position's just getting stronger and stronger every minute that goes by. Meanwhile, BiO has instead opted, which, this is the good reaction, but look how difficult it is to push. But when you're getting town pushed and something like this happens, where you just utterly lose town as NATO, you immediately have to push the farm. And they get the cap, and, you know, the farm is, if you can get in there without getting destroyed, it's pretty hard to dislodge them. Like, this inf is going to do some work. Okay, air just comes in and wipes them out, and then the heavy airstrike kind of nullifies it. And meanwhile, they're still strong over here. So this is just it's difficult to push it, because you kind of have to, like, go through this little narrow choke point, and it's even harder to hold it compared to here. Like, once you get in here, very hard to dislodge. And their response is just to go, you know, Saddam Hussein style. Like, that's a lot of fucking gas right there, guys. Like, triple gas. I don't even know, like, when was the last time you saw a triple gas? But it does work. Like, gas is a pretty big area of effect weapon, so if somebody pumped a fuck ton of drops and infantry into a town, you know, you're going to lose if you don't get rid of them. So triple gas might work, but, you know, more drops are coming into their spawn here. Brutal. And they still hold this, and they hold the mansion. This is well defended. You know, it's not looking good. And, like, BiO's tanks are beat to shit. And again, he doesn't really have... He's fortunate that he has this. If he didn't have this drop, he'd have no line of sight at all. But these tanks are completely passive. Like, they have 1 AA protecting them. It's not a strong position. And, you know, that's what happens when you don't move your shit. But he's busy. AMP's busy trying to take this town. Meanwhile, this sniper, again, noted, it's doing work. It's drawing some attention to itself and dies. Still got this one, though. And yeah, at this point, it kind of stabilizes, but the damage has been done. Very tough to come back from a brutal town push. And, you know, kudos to BiO for holding it together and recovering. Like, I think dousing this town in gas really worked. But they're getting desperate now. Like, they need to get this lead back. They're decapping shit. Like, oh, it's tempting to decap this, but it's so easy for them to recap it. Especially when they're in this position and they hold here. In the meantime, we've got a big repair train and more tanks, and they're ready to chip away at this position. And this is an interesting note. Like, this is really showing the sign of the times. Like, the air player, Mephi, is keeping his scout here to give his armor player line of sight advantage. And here we go, a scan and drops and air is going in. You know, meanwhile, the town push continues. Like, good thing, yeah, you know, you can't really stop the town push. And again, their push on farm is getting disrupted. One heavy arty is enough to stuff it up, and then, you know, the clusters as well. Fuck. Yeah, and this armor and support blob again. Look, no line of sight. They're driving into their death, you know. And look at the brutal tick from NFEC's side. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of people who've played competitive games has been in this position. You know, it's brutal. The town push is, you know, especially when it's well executed, is really the only option. You know, look at that's a nice play by Blue Force support. Wipes out air. But here, they got forts in town. There's very little inf. Like, the red team has more inf in town, and they're decapping this. Like, and I kind of wasted TA there. Like, I would rather drop that heavy arty, you know, here, of course. And look at the sniper. You know, they're getting overrun with infantry so much that they have to have the snipers in the open, and that's why whenever you see guys doing this, just drop a light arty on them. You know, those snipers are going to die. You get more desperate decaps. And AMPs realized, okay, you know, fuck windmill. Fuck pushing this farm. Like, we got to get our town back. And, you know, it's always you're going to need two things when you do shit like this. Like, you need to communicate to your support player that, hey, I'm attacking. I'm going to town. I'm not going to windmill. I'm not going to mansion. Or Chateau, or whatever the fuck it is. I'm going to town. I need support. Like, he's got 3 tanks here. You need some support. And support eventually gets over there. But that was a risk. Like, this heavy tank. Yeah, he's going to get BTFO'd. And the nice combo drops. This is good stuff. You know, oh, you love it. Then that happens. And you might be saying to yourself, damn, I know BiO just got town pushed. How do you recover from that? And, you know, that's a good question. And we're going to see if they can do it. And again, this is a best 2 out of 3, and I got 3 replays. So somebody wins this game. That's all I'm going to say. And just, oh yeah, that's frustrating. You know, so there's 2 things you can really do to recover from the town push. The first is to just shift off the windmill and focus all your effort on defeating the town push in a straight up fight. So that means allocating most of your support and armor to town. This is also nice. You do want to keep a tank here just to keep pressure, and also support players like to put AA here when they can. And so you do want a heavy just kind of tucked in this corner. You don't want to overextend. You're not going to survive over here, but just having it there is nice. And then if you do start doing combo drops on the middle, it'll work out. But look at this tick. It's still going. 7 minutes left. Like, tough. And AMP, you know, desperately overextending tanks. Just trying to get that cap. And, you know, you're dealing with a ranked up air player. You know, Mephi is a good air player. You know, all these players were just excellent, tip top. But continuing to drop, and look at this nice positioning in town from Red 4, keeping their inf alive. Always gratifying to see. And now things have kind of stabilized. Like, they've just kind of decapped. Like, if you look at the mini map, everything is decapped. So, and just continuing to drop over here. We saw them doing some clusters and drops and recon and scans to soften it up, and that's good shit. And that's really what you want to do, is continually attack and soften up positions and then drop on them again and again, because your drop's very vulnerable. And look, he's committing everything, even the line of sight drop, which sometimes you just gotta toss in all your chips. And then here we go, another mass drop. And this is the interesting thing, like I think it's lost on a lot of players these days, is like the utility and the importance of drops relative to nukes. Like, if this was a game played now, like, that's enough TA being spent here for a fucking nuke, basically. Like, it seems that players nowadays will, rather than doing these team combo drop attacks, they'll opt for a nuke. And, you know, sometimes nukes are the right choice. Like, maybe a nuke on Red 4 would have really fucked them up. The town push is very vulnerable to nukes, but drops, like, a nuke is temporary. Drops, like, now somebody has to commit a lot of resources to dislodging that drop. And look, the town is basically under their control again. Like, once they clean up a little bit more, they finally got in a strong position. You know, belatedly, NFAC has started dropping on Windmill, but, like, Windmill has been ignored by everybody for the last 3 to 4 minutes, I think. And that is probably a mistake. Like, at some point, NFAC has botched their TA management. Maybe spending it all. They had a few heavy airstrikes that really did not pay back. The investment might have been better spent on spamming drops, especially clearing Windmill. Like, Windmill could have been cleared and captured for like less than 50 TA. Even less if you just, you know, a couple tank busters. And now the drop spam continues. Like, they're marching drops into the spawn. The tick is way back in their favor. These infantry, like, behind enemy lines shit is not, it's just temporarily gonna decap things. And air and support and infantry are working together to hold Windmill. And it's looking like BiO has pulled this shit out of the fire. And really, let's unpack how they did this. First of all, they responded to the town push by countering it with their own town push. They did mass cooperative drops here and here. You know, after they tried to push this a few times, like with conventional forces, and just got annihilated, you know, both times. And they changed it up. They realized, okay, we got an all-in town, and then spread them out with drops everywhere else. And just they kept pressure here. And this, again, it's risky to do these decaps, but there is some merit in it, in that you're getting tick on these guys. And, like, if you're down this much, if you're down like 80% or 70%, every little tick counts in the last few minutes. Because this surge that they're getting now, it's tenuous, right? Like, they have really no control here. They have nothing here. Town is still, like, these guys are, this is some crazy shit. Like, how are these guys still alive? It's ridiculous. Just decapping and causing chaos, but the tick is going so much in their favor, and there's just too many drops, and like even more and more drops. Again, like, they could have nuked probably once or twice with all the TA they generated in this game, but they didn't need to nuke. They just continued to drop. You know, everything is filled up with drops. It's awesome. And yeah, even their spawn. Brutal. And yeah, the comeback, it's coming. You know, they were so far behind that even holding this huge tick is taking them some time to get to a win position. And so now the question is, can Tegan or whatever, NFAC, come back? And so they take their, you know, it's a minute left. The lead is just bleeding over to NATO now. They're trying to take back all their gimme positions, basically. You know, and they're spamming lights. You know, look at this. Oh, can you unload? Nice. They get the decap. Oh, and they're so close to getting the cap. Get it. And up here, same story. You know, what can Air do? Air is like, he has to stretch himself out. These guys are still alive in town, but they're, you know, it's fucked for them. You know, kudos to the infantry player for staying alive. And yeah, you can clear him up with heavy arty, but that's another 14 points that you're not using for drops. And the TD, cherry on top. Brutal. So yeah, that is in essence, like, this is a high, like, the highest level of Wick play that you can see. You know, these two teams were like the best of the best back in the day. And yeah, it's like a 10-year-old game, 12-year-old game probably, but you know, the lessons that you can learn are still very clear. You know, USSR push town. If they do push town, you should either really push farm and try hard there, or you should reallocate and take back town, you know, and do mass drops. I got a lot of these competitive games from Cat now, and it's the most beautiful thing to see when, you know, 3 or 4 players are dropping all the TA. Like, you've got 8 drops coming in at once with some supportive destructive TA, you know, magnificent. And yeah, the BiO just makes it look easy. Like, they were dead. They were so dead in this game, and they come back and take it. And, you know, I'll watch the other 2 games in this series and see if they're any good. Like, this is a good game. Really good stuff. I think we could all learn from how these 2 teams handled Riviera, which is a tough one. It's a tough one. And yeah, thank you again for Kat for putting these up here, and I hope I can get some more competitive games for you guys soon. All right, later.